our spotlight is on the Jeffrey Madoff. Hey, Jeffrey, welcome to the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
All right, thanks so much for joining
Thank you
us.
for having me on.
Happy to have you on. All right, the Jeffrey Madoff, aka Jeff, is an author, professor, fashion designer, playwright, film and video and theater producer. I have a ton of questions about your amazing career. And if our audience were to Google you, the Jeffrey Madoff, they'd find out a ton about you. But I want to start things off by asking you if you can tell us something that we can't Google about you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I can. Something that you cannot Google about me is when I made one of the very early trips to the moon and actually walked on the moon and followed some of the same footsteps as Buzz Aldrin.
I'm pretty sure we probably can't Google that about you.
Yeah, that is true.
That's right. That's true.
That's hilarious.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's been great talking to you guys. Thank you so much.
All right, so you began your career as a fashion designer, even being selected as one of the top 10 designers in the US. So what drew you to fashion design and how did your career take such a drastic turn?
Well, first of all, prior to that, I didn't have a career. So it's not that it took a drastic turn, unless you consider going from one job to another a drastic turn, which it wasn't. And, I want to be also clear because I think context is really important.
Mhm.
When you say that I was one of the top 10 young designers in the United States and got an award for that, that is true. But I think there were only 8 of us. So it wasn't hard to be in the top 10.
You were number 9.
And I was number 9. Thank you for doing your research. That's something you can Google about me as a matter of fact. After the moonwalk. I was working in this fashion boutique in Madison, Wisconsin, where I went to college, University of Wisconsin. And a dear friend of mine who I grew up with, who had graduated a year before me from college, said, look, I saved up some money. Can you think of a gig that would earn more than bank interest? So I said, well, I see what we sell in the store. I could always draw. So I'll start a clothing company. And he said, okay, great. And he sent me a check. And at that time, it was more money than I ever had at one time. And although memory is a little bit hazy, it was somewhere between $1,500 and $2,500, which seemed like a lot, but was really a little.
I started with that amount.
I don't know. That would seem like a lot for me at that age.
Well, I'll tell you something, I'm thinking, what if I was in the bathroom when I got that call? Now, of course, there weren't cell phones then, so I wouldn't have gotten the call in the bathroom. But if I had, I would have thought, oh, maybe, we could go into the paper towel or toilet paper business. So I'm glad that I was in the store where I was working because at least I thought about a viable thing as opposed to, yeah, because I had a double major in college of philosophy and psychology. And those certainly prepare you for staying unemployed for quite a long time. So the fact that I had an offer to start a business, and my parents were entrepreneurial, so I grew up in a household where my mom and dad, they started and owned their own business. I have a sister; she owns her own business. So getting a job was never something that I looked forward to. And I'm an entrepreneur because I'm basically unemployable. So it happened that I was in the store when my friend called, and it all kind of made sense. It also made sense because I didn't think about it too much. I just did it.
All right, Ellen.
Oh.
You have a question, Ellen?
Yeah. So since you're mentioning talking about how unlikely or difficult it is for or how difficult it is for someone who graduates with a degree in psychology and philosophy for them to make it on their own. And you stumbled upon this opportunity. So, what would you say to other people who are recently graduated with degrees like that, where their jobs prospects are similar, and they're also kind of holding out on some sort of lucky event? What advice would you give to those people?
Nice.
I would give them advice to not take advice
Hmm.
because you have to find out, discover for yourself, what direction you want to go. And, I said that uh, jokingly, I mean, it's not like you can go through and say, oh, a philosophy degree and a psychology degree, what does that set me up for? There are actually things from anything from teaching to becoming a therapist to going to
Absolutely.
a think tank. There's all kinds of different things that you can do, none of which I ever thought about doing, but there
Mhm.
are. And so, I think that often meaning like almost all the time, there's no single path to take. And I don't believe in prescriptive fixes
Mhm.
for life's questions, so you can read these books that seem to have the seven highly effective
I read that.
seven highly effective secrets for highly effective people, or all that kind of thing. And I don't think that life is prescriptive, because that brings up what I call the myth of replication,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm.
means, oh, so
It
that
can be
person
like
was able to do that, and if I can replicate their behaviors and
be like them.
circumstances, which by the way you cannot, under any circumstances you cannot. So there's best practices for business. Be prepared, be ready,
Mm-hmm.
stay curious, work hard, show up on time, be present, and all of those kinds of things. But
Mhm.
beyond those best practices, you start discovering this stuff for yourself.
Mhm.
And there isn't a prescription for that. So I don't have any, great wisdom to impart.
Mhm.
All right, RB.
Interesting.
Best advice is
Now,
no advice.
as I
I
was
I
preparing
thought that
for
was
this,
great wisdom, by the way. God damn it, that was great wisdom I just gave you.
It felt great to me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Oh my
I
God,
got some
yeah.
information from that.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna think about that
Thank
for a
you.
while.
Thank you.
Mhm.
now as I was preparing for this, I heard you recount a story from your youth, and I want to throw a quote at you, and I'm hoping that you would be willing to share the story with our audience. I was hired to be a shoe salesman, not a zookeeper.
Yes. That was, by the way, the first and last time I had ever said that, until I was on that podcast you heard. And it's in my book. A book came out about my class, the class that I teach at Parsons School of Design in New York. What had happened was a new shopping center had opened in Akron, Ohio, which is where I'm from. And I essentially talked my way into a job. They were looking for someone who was at least 23, had at least 2 years of shoe selling experience, was married, and at those times you could make all these conditions. And I was 16, had no shoe selling experience, was not married, and I was able to talk my way into the job. And I had a great manager. He was a terrific person. And the store was a family shoe store, and it had a monkey in the back of the store.
Oh.
And, and by the way, something else that would not fly these days is you would not have a live animal cage in the back of the store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thought was, while mom's trying on the shoes, kids go back and look at the monkey. And so monkeys, like us humans, defecate quite a bit. So unlike us humans, they don't sit on the toilet and flush it. So what you have to do is clean the cage. So the assistant manager said to me, clean out the monkey cage. And I said to him, do you clean out the monkey cage? He said, I told you to clean out the monkey cage. I said, I heard you, but I said, do you clean out the monkey cage? What do you mean? I said, look, I'm willing to take my turn if everybody does it. But if you're telling me to do it because I'm the youngest person here, I was hired to be a shoe salesman, not a zookeeper.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
And that manager overheard this conversation. And he stepped in and said to the assistant manager, Jimmy, why don't you show Jeff how to clean the cage out? And from now on, each of us will take turns doing this. So it was a funny phrase, and but it actually gave me a really good management lesson. And when I got older and was managing lots of people, it's about listening and letting people know that they've been heard and making decisions that are fair.
I love that.
So that's part of the monkey story.
So you own
love
you own a production company. So I'm curious, can you tell us more about that production company, how it got started, what brought you there?
No. Next question. Yeah, of course, yes. I had my design company and made the decision to move to New York, my fashion design company.
Mhm.
And when I moving to New York was like a big deal. From Wisconsin, I had been to New York for business trips and was gradually seduced by the city because I'm a stimulus junkie, and New York is such an exciting city. It's just such a great place. And when I moved, my financial backer told me that he would not continue to back me if I moved to New York. And he made that clear from the very beginning of the business because I employed Wisconsinites. I had 2 factories and I was like, I don't know, 23 or so and employed about 120 people, all who banked at his banks. And he was a very good man. So he wasn't doing anything that he hadn't told me as a condition of the investment when he initially invested in the company. So I had come to New York and I was working on I ended up working on a film project and discovered that I really liked film. And I really liked the opportunity to tell stories, which is something that I had always done. And I had the opportunity to apply both my fashion knowledge and my love of filmmaking and became one of the first people that was videotaping fashion shows and filming fashion shows. That just hadn't been going, that wasn't a thing before.
Mhm.
So one of my small slivers of historical significance is being one of the first people to be doing that. And that transitioned me into the film business. And I started my own company
Wow.
as a result of doing that. So we did commercials, documentaries, branded content, all kinds of different things. And I felt like what I liked about it is that I was only limited by my own imagination, and that it's the kind of thing that you only get better at the more you do it.
Mhm.
So I really enjoyed doing that. And there's whole lots to unpack, which we don't have time for here in terms of how I even bridged into the film business and doing that.
Right.
But it's a decision that I decided to make to totally switch careers and to do that, which I'm very happy that I did because that led to other things.
So there's a comment online. It says, Paulette says, wow, good for you for standing up for your rights in a very mature way. All right, Gianni, what's your question?
My question is, do you have anything, anything that you worked on within your production company that you're really passionate about that you'd want to share, or anything coming out, even if it's not within the production company and it's in fashion or something completely out of those professional fields?
Well, I've been really fortunate because I've had great clients, traveled the world, shot in Russia, shot in Czechoslovakia, shot in Italy, shot in France, shot in London, worked for people such as Ralph Lauren, clients for Victoria's Secret and Harvard School of Public Health, and an array of clients and really cool stuff. So,
Yeah.
people ask me like, what was your favorite job? And it was always the one that I was doing. Because I think you have to be really present to do any work good. Now, there are certain jobs that really stood out to me that were really cool to do. But I'm fortunate that I had a high degree of work that was cool to do. It was fun. But I wanted to also do something else. And that something else was that came from my work is that I was hired to do a documentary about Lloyd Price. And Lloyd Price, you should Google him. You guys, if you don't know his name, you know his music. And Lloyd, who was born in Kenner, Louisiana, he was black, and he recorded one of the cornerstone songs in rock and roll, and the first song by a teenager that sold over 1 million copies, called Lottie Miss Claudie.
Claudie, Miss Claudie.
And that was covered by the Beatles, by Elvis, by Little Richard. And as a matter of fact, Lloyd got Little Richard his first recording contract. And
Wow.
and this is just cool. This is just cool to say. I was on a conference call with Lloyd Price and Little Richard. So I just think
Wow.
that's neat.
That is neat.
That's so cool.
To be able to say that. And so Lloyd's story is astounding. And I felt like this would give me another opportunity to expand my creative horizons and to write a play about Lloyd's life. The natural thing would have been to write a movie, but there's something about live performances I really love. Because, before we went on air here, we were talking about music and so on. And live performances, the performer is at risk the entire time they're in front of the audience.
Mhm.
And particularly, like if anybody's ever seen a comedian bomb, it live, painful experience, and the brilliant ones know how to recover. And the ones that get angry and attack the audience eventually lose their career.
Yeah.
Plays, you can't do a retake like you can in a movie,
Right.
So
Right.
I love there's an underpinning of tension and risk that I really like.
Okay.
And I did the documentary about Lloyd, and as a result of doing that, Lloyd and I became friends. And I said to him, I know I can capture your voice. I want to tell your story. Because he not only broke down the wall that was called race music, it used to be, and this was back in 1952, if you wanted to buy a record by a black artist, you had to go to a black-owned record store.
Mm-hmm.
And black music was called race music.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just code. So what would happen is that the songs would be put into R&B, which was also code for black, and pop music charts was all dominated by white artists because that's where the money was. But Lottie Miss Claudie sold so well, and nobody is prejudiced against green. They were all happy to be making the money off that. And as a result, that broke down the wall that was called Race Records.
Wow.
And Lloyd also was the first artist of any color to start his own label. So he was an entrepreneur. And he was also the first black to open up a nightclub below Harlem. Actually across the street from the Ed Sullivan Theater, which is then where the David Letterman show is, and now where the Colbert show is.
Wow.
So, so Lloyd's life was amazing. Just an amazing life. And by the way, later on, and this is not in my play, but later on, he also produced the Thrilla in Manila and the Rumble in the Jungle with his best friend, Muhammad Ali, and one of his best friends, and another one of his good friends who he brought into boxing, Don King. So Lloyd's life was amazing.
Yeah, his life.
Really an amazing life.
It's like Forrest
So
Gump.
that's the thing that I'm probably the most excited about now. Last week, we finished our first week of castings. The show opens at People's Light Theater in Malvern, Pennsylvania. On March, it was previews start March 2nd. The official opening is the 7th of March of 22, and we'll go through the 27th.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting, and it's
Me and Ellen have to do a
collaborating
road
with some,
trip.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a road trip, Jeff,
Road trip.
in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. I looked it
I
up. Yeah,
hope
it's not too
so.
far. It wouldn't take us long to get there, Alan. We could do it.
All right. Pack up the car.
Yeah, and it's really exciting because I'm telling a story that I think is really important because it's about race. It's about the youth movement. It's about the birth of the civil rights movement and all of these things that came together during Lloyd's lifetime. And
Yeah.
Lloyd just died in May 5th of 21,
Wow.
which was really sad to me because I wanted so much for him to be there next to me at the opening.
Wow.
And he had an extraordinary life. And so I'm aside from just wanting to put out a great piece of work and collaborating with phenomenally talented people to bring this all to life, and his legacy should live on.
Absolutely.
You know, it puts that added thing on there is now more than ever, it's more important for people to appreciate the doors that Lloyd opened that people just aren't aware of, you know, and his life was amazing. So
Yeah.
that's something, Johnny, that's a long way of answering your question, but that's what I'm most excited about now is that and the possibilities of that.
Wow. I can't wait.
Thank you for sharing that. That's something that would be very exciting to look forward to. And for somebody like me, I didn't know about Lloyd. So
I hadn't
thank
heard
you
of
for
him
shedding
either
light.
prior to this conversation.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
that's what I
Google
really want to
him.
know.
You will see. I'll give you a quick, really bad rendition, but you might know this song. Cause you've got walk a personality, talk a personality,
Oh,
smile
yeah.
a person. That's
Yeah.
Lloyd.
Wait, Tom,
That's
that was a
Lloyd
great
Price.
rendition. We just need a little
That
music
was
to that.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Grab my guitar.
and,
Break the guitar out,
and,
Ellen.
Yeah.
and Rob, we can do this with 2 guitars.
That's
And,
right.
Yeah, I'll play acoustic and Rob will shred.
All right.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right, unfortunately, we're running out of time. So I wanted to give you a few minutes to just say anything that you want to say, close out. Any shout outs, anybody you want to call out. And I think you're going to stick around for our after show. But anything you want to say?
Sure. Can I do a naked plug here? I
How
don't
you
mean I'm
doing?
going to take off my
Absolutely.
clothes.
Please plug away.
I'm going to keep my clothes on, which I think is better for your audience.
Please
But
plug away.
Thank you.
so this book, let's see, there we. Oh, you've got me reversed. I don't know what
Other way.
direction I'm going into.
Go whatever one you're not.
Yeah.
Do whatever you're.
And I'm on a time delay. So the hell with that. But the book is called Creative Careers: Making a Living with Your Ideas, and it's based on the class that I teach of the same name at Parsons School of Design. This fall, I started my 14th year teaching it, and every week I bring in amazing guests, and we talk about the journey from where they were to where they are, and I might have a Nobel Prize winning scientist. I might have had Michael Arad, who designed the 9/11 memorial, Roy Wood, who's the senior Black correspondent for The Daily Show,
Wow.
Wow.
and
Yeah. Right.
Pulitzer Prize winning journalists, and
Wood's
all
funny.
kinds of people. It's he's great. He's great, and really good insights into comedy too. Really a terrific person.
Yeah.
So I love doing that because I think what's most important is to stay curious and to keep learning and to keep exposing yourself to new ideas. And there's nobody worse to be around than somebody who thinks they know it all. And I think that if you stay present and you stay in a constant state of wandering around and wondering and curiosity, that it just makes the world a richer place. And and it also gives you more dots in your brain to connect, so you can come up with new ideas and new things the more influences you have. And so teaching is a fantastic way to learn, and every semester I have a whole new group of students, and I really love it. Really love doing it. And the book is reflective of the class, and it approaches how to get unstuck, how to overcome fear and doubt, and how to ask yourself the right questions as you're moving into your career or changing careers. And I'm proud of the book. And it makes the perfect gift for anyone you've ever met in your life or ever will meet. and,
The holiday season.
and I thank you very much. Yes, Johnny, thank you. And so Christmas is coming up, and Hanukkah, which is 8 days you can buy gifts for people. So
And I see
Hey,
I
hey,
see
Papa.
Jose put the
Yes.
link in the Facebook chat. So go ahead and click that link
Okay.
and order that. And also we'll make sure we get that in our description for the podcast. So
And by the way, Neo, it will blow your mind when you see the play because you look like Lloyd's gangster mentor, Logan, the actor who
Suge
plays
Knight,
him.
wait, no.
I'm not, and I'm telling you, it's really interesting. I don't know. I haven't seen you with that. Wait, take off your hat a second.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, so same. Oh my
He
God.
does look like
So,
him.
so now
So
I know I'm a
look
celebrity
up-
now.
Yeah,
Need a
Google,
study.
Became an actor.
Google Stanley Mathis.
Stanley Mathis. Stanley
I gotta-
Yes,
Mathis.
So funny.
he's a. Do you see him?
I do.
So I don't know if in what you find online has the mustache and
know.
beard, but Stanley does, and it's uncanny the resemblance.
Okay.
And
Facial hair
and
is
he-
uncanny.
you found a picture of him with the facial hair. I mean,
Yeah.
it's wild. It's Stanley's an interesting character. He's a gangster who ends up managing Lloyd because there's a mutual respect with each other, and he's an amazing guy.
I see.
But you're gonna
I found a picture that I could see it. He might be a little darker, but
It's-
yeah, I get
Yeah,
it.
like right here.
Yeah, I found a good picture. You're right. I could see it.
It's pretty wild, but
Yeah.
he's a really cool character. And by the way, the like what you guys are experiencing here with the four of you and the way you play off of each other, doing a play when you're working with talented people and you have that collaboration,
Mhm.
it's really special when it's all clicking and
It
firing.
really is.
And
True.
and I'm so fortunate because my director Sheldon Epps, who is amazing, and we have attracted just a wonderfully talented group of people, and I think that's going to translate into a fantastic show. So
I'm looking at these comments online. Jose says new career Neo Nix, and Neo as a, Mike Winter says Neo as a gangster. George Fournier says very fascinating man. Talking about you, of course, Jeff. Paulette Bertrand says thank you for sharing all of that knowledge. Mike Winter says I am down for the play. Sounds fascinating. All right, Mike Winter, we're gonna have to do a road trip. Call you up. Let's do that road
Oh
trip.
my
Or
God.
rent a van.
Stop by in Atlanta.
Olivia says, I salute a person that no matter the profession uses it for good. I salute you. Jacqueline Rob says, I remember the movie Hairspray mentioning race music. So I hadn't heard
Oh,
about
yeah,
that
me
either. And there's a couple
too.
other questions. We just don't have time anymore, though.
so I can give you a quick thing about the race music, which you guys might find interesting. You want
Go
a
ahead.
quick tidbit here?
Fire away.
So, Tutti Frutti, which was Little Richard's first big hit. And if you ever saw it, it's funny, the actor who was playing Little Richard said to me and the director, so how over the top should I go with this performance? And I said, we're talking about Little Richard, a black man who in the 1950s had a processed pompadour, wore pancake makeup and mascara, played piano standing up, shouted in falsetto. You can't go over because he defined that, and so it was really interesting because Pat Boone's version. You guys know who Pat Boone is?
I do.
Pat Boone is kind of the musical equivalence of mayonnaise on white bread, and his version of Tutti Frutti outsold Little Richard's.
Mm.
And the reason was
Wow.
is because Pat Boone, and they would have white artists cover the black songs.
Mm-hmm.
So Pat
Yeah.
Boone covered Tutti Frutti, and that got into the pop charts, and Little Richard was put into the R&B bins.
Mm.
And there's so many examples of this, but it's a really fascinating story, and it's a part of our popular history that people just don't know that's really
Mhm.
fascinating.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate the time. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
If you're sticking around, we'll wait for you in the after show and we'll see you there and talk some more. All right.
Great. I'd be happy to stick around. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you, Jeff.